Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's conversation regarding carrier benchmarking. I'm Todd Davis, Vice President of Customer Success and Benchmarking at FreightWaves, and I'm honored today to be joined by Jonathan Wolfrum, who is President of Thomas E. Keller Trucking in Defiance, Ohio. Uh, Keller is a longtime participant in the benchmarking program that FreightWaves administers for the Truckload Carriers Association, and I wanted to let the audience have the opportunity today to hear from Jonathan about the program and the benefits that it offers. So with that being said, let me welcome Jonathan to the program and get him to tell us a little bit about Keller and his background.
Yeah, thank you, Todd. I really appreciate you having me. So Thomas E. Keller Trucking is a subsidiary of Keller Logistics Group. We're based in Defiance, Ohio, and have about 600 total employees across 4 divisions, with warehousing and co-packing, a small manufacturing division, and then we also have our trucking, which is the largest entity, and our freight brokerage company. Our trucking company that is enrolled in the best practice group program, the TPP program, as you referenced it has about 220 tractors, and we've been involved in the group for 5 years now, and just very happy to be a participant. We've taken a lot from it, so really looking forward to talking more about that.
Fantastic. I think for the audience assembled who may not know about the benchmarking program that FreightWaves offers in conjunction with the Truckload Carriers Association, just a little bit of background about it. It's been in existence now for a number of years. It really started to gain traction and grow around the 2013-2014 time period. Currently, there are 155 carriers that are involved in the program, and of the 155 carriers involved, there are over 200 individual profiles. A carrier, based on their fleet mix in terms of the asset types that they run, they can have multiple profiles. So 155 carriers have a little over 200 different profiles. It's a very well organized, well run program. The pinnacle of the program, as Jonathan mentioned a moment ago, is the best practice group program, and that's where participants elect to not only share their data and get back information that they can use to drive improvement within their own organizations and kind of eliminate the status quo in their operational and financial metrics. But they can do so while interacting with their peers in just as exactly as it's described, best practice groups, and develop relationships, collaborate, and have those peer-to-peer relationships, and can kind of help drive best practices and improvements. So, Jonathan, with that being said, I know Keller's got a couple of different divisions. Can you tell us about the best practice groups that you're actively involved with, and how that works from your side of the fence?
Yeah, so our trucking company is in the TCO7 group, which is a dry van group. Our trucking company is almost 100% dry van. So all the carriers in that group, which there's 12 in our specific group, which is about the number that are in most of the groups, I believe. So those 12 carriers are all like carriers in that they're dry van. Vast majority of sizes within that group. We're 220 tractors. There's a few that are smaller than us, a few that are similar size to us, and then a few that are much larger than us. So it really gives you an array of opinions and experience within that from a size perspective. And then our brokerage is in the TCO8 group. I believe that was the first brokerage group in the TPP program. And they just got involved in that last year, and they're very excited so far and have already seen some good opportunities and gains from being a part of that group.
Yeah, fantastic. That is great to hear. I know as the program has grown over the years, it's kind of member led. It's not a situation where, say, the TCA or FreightWaves is asking members to submit certain data points around their GL, around their financial and operational metrics, and then, it just gets sent back out in like an anonymized type composite. Based on what we think carriers would want to look at from insofar as like KPIs. It's really member led, and what we've seen over time is members, through that kind of collaboration and that engagement, will recommend, hey, we need to look at this data point. We need to build a KPI around this particular data point. And now the number of KPIs that are available for carriers to submit data against and then have anonymized results and composites sent back out to them, is over 500. It's very, very granular, very high level, as you would expect. Your operational metrics in terms of number of loads per truck per week, miles, rate, revenue, margin, that type of thing. But then also going down into, insurance and maintenance and software and support and things along those lines. Obviously your fixed overhead, your wages and benefits costs, can get very, very granular. Jonathan, from your perspective, I mean, you guys have been involved with the program for a number of years now and very successful with it. When you see your metrics each month relative to your peers, can you kind of take us through for the members that are watching today, or the participants that are watching today, about how you execute on that internally? Because having numbers is one thing, but then using those numbers to drive change, can be something else as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned there's 500 data points. So the idea of sitting there and kind of looking at every one of those data points on a monthly basis, it's not realistic, but we definitely dive into certain ones and focus on certain areas at certain times. When we first joined the group, I'll be honest, we were one of the lower performers in the group. And you get in there and you share your numbers, and you get in the meeting and they throw the numbers up on the screen, and you're at the bottom of the numbers. It's frustrating, and you want to go back to your folks and say, what can we do to correct this? And as you said, the vast array of areas, anywhere from labor to maintenance, insurance, all those things are there. And these are all really good carriers and great comparison numbers. So if I'm focused in on maintenance, for example, and I want to look at my tire cost per mile on my trailers or my tractors, I can look at either one. And our number is higher than the rest. Why is our number higher than the rest? What can we do to improve that? And so we'll pick out 5 or 6 numbers where we're at the lower end of the spectrum, focus on those things, try to drive improvement in those areas. And as we see that improvement, then we'll kind of move on to the next thing. So we always make a point to identify those areas of opportunity and focus on that for whatever amount of time is needed to bring us towards the top.
Fantastic. And I would think too that within your organization, when the management team within Keller starts to see those numbers, I mean, it helps improve their awareness and their operational and financial literacy, as it were, because hey, here's some information from folks out in the community that are our competitors, our peers and that type of thing. Here's their numbers. Here's the challenge for us. Can we go back and drive improvement? So maybe what it does is it just kind of helps raise the awareness and kind of heighten the awareness for everybody within your organization.
Yeah, I mean, before this best practice group, we thought we knew what was good, and we thought we knew where we needed areas of improvement. And for the most part, you're generally right. But when you have cold hard numbers to compare to carriers that are doing the same thing as you are day in and day out, there's really no substitute for that. And there's no other place you can go to get that and really trust those numbers. So that's been really invaluable for us as an organization.
Absolutely. My predecessor, who was in this role, Chris Henry, when he and I were first, when we met, I've been with FreightWaves now for right at about a year, and he told me, he said, hey, this is a great way to eliminate the status quo. And I think you kind of spoke to that just a moment ago. I think all carriers, all operators have got very, very rich data in and of themselves, but they're kind of at the status quo, right? And so when you bring in external numbers that are kind of apples to apples comparisons, sometimes it can be a real eye opener. Great to hear in that regard. Tell us a little bit about the interaction. Because I know, I came from the carrier side. I worked for 24 years for a couple of different carriers, large national truckload carriers, and I know there can be a reticence at times for folks to get together and kind of compare notes and that type of thing. So tell me a little bit about the collaborative aspects of the best practice groups.
Yeah, so the numbers we talked about are extremely important, but to be honest, I would put that communication, collaboration, and the ability to get together as a group almost more valuable than just the numbers itself. We get together 2 or 3 times a year physically. Obviously, COVID's put a bit of a damper on that this year, but we've still met virtually. So we get together, we have a day and a half meeting typically. We have a topic of the meeting, whether it be maintenance or operations or admin or something of that sort. Each group will present on certain areas of the business where we feel they're doing well and kind of just have some open discussion and questions and answers. Then also as a part of that, each carrier every meeting brings a best idea. And that idea is typically focused on the topic at hand, but it could just be something that they're doing really well that they want to share with the group. And I'll tell you what, all the carriers have been very open with that, and we've got some great ideas from that, and that's been really really valuable. Over the 5 years and the several sessions, there's been best ideas from the other carriers that we've absolutely implemented in our business and have made a big impact. And not only that, not only the meetings, to have the ability to pick up the phone and call any one of those 12 companies on a certain technology or a certain issue that we're having, is really invaluable. And it takes somebody a lifetime to build some of those relationships. And we got that in the matter of a few years with these companies. And that's been great and very, very valuable.
Yeah, definitely. It probably, by virtue of the fact that you're willing to get involved and you're willing to share your GL data and some of your operational data as well, and you're demonstrating to the rest of the group that you're willing to do that, and then they come to the table, that issue of trust kind of automatically, gets cemented at that point. So you can kind of springboard, that relationship forward. So that's fantastic to hear. I would be remiss if I didn't also note that the best practice groups on the Truckload Carrier Association side are headed up by Jack Porter, who's the director of the program, and then also Shepard Dunn, one of the past chairmen of the TCA. He helps manage the programs, and they kind of split their time between the BPGs, best practice groups, helping manage them. So you get to interact with Jack and Shepard, and those two gentlemen, combined, the years of experience they have in the industry is pretty extensive.
Yeah, and Jack and Shepard mediate our meetings and kind of run that, but they're not just a mediator. They've got great value, great opinions. We've been working with Jack that entire time, and also Shepard was actually a part of our group at one time on the carrier side. So I know he understands and gets it. And those guys really bring a valuable perspective and one that is a little bit outside of the day-to-day of running a carrier, and they bring that good outside industry experience.
Good. If I can switch gears just for a moment and talk a little bit about, if people who are watching this right now, they may say, well, that sounds great. That sounds like something I would like to get involved with. Kind of what's the table stakes? What do I need to do? High level, basically, it's be willing to submit a trial balance of a recent month that's been closed out. We can do the mapping. We'll work with you to do the mapping to make sure the data elements get mapped over properly into the template. And then from there, that's done collaboratively so that there is assurances of the accuracy and the validity of the information. And then from that point, once we check the box on that, we can move forward with like the monthly data exchange to be able to then start build out the history. Get a historical data set and then move forward each individual month with additional data sets to kind of build that trend. Jonathan, if I may ask, from your perspective and your team's perspective, what's the lift like there? Did you find that to be easy, or are there challenges, or was it challenging for you?
Excuse me. Believe it or not, it wasn't too bad. The first initial getting the financial statements and everything mapped correctly was a bit of a challenge. Just, they do a really good job of making sure we're comparing like numbers within the group. And as you can imagine, those numbers can be loaded depending on how you track things as a carrier. Right. So they've done a good job of doing that. And really, that's the only pain point, to make sure we're comparing apples to apples. But outside of that, the team at TCA and FreightWaves and everybody involved has been great and really helps out wherever they can to make sure that's an ezy process.
Fantastic. That's good to hear. Well, to your point, everybody's GLs are probably going to be structured a little bit differently in how they account for things. There's probably going to be a myriad of different variations there. But what our team does on the mapping piece is to make sure that that's done collaboratively, so that the mapping into the template is done in such a way that the leadership of that particular carrier and their finance team, everybody's on board and thumbs up and moving forward. So. With that being said, I appreciate your time today talking about this particular subject with us. I think it's valuable. I think it's great for the group assembled, the audience assembled, to hear from participant who's gaining a lot of benefit from the program and has a good tenure and track record with it. If anyone out in the community would like to learn more about that, please feel free to reach out to me, Todd Davis at FreightWaves. There'll be some information that'll come up a little bit later in this segment that'll tell you how to get in touch with me, but we would love to connect with you and discuss in greater detail. Jonathan, would there be anything else relative to the program or anything along those lines that you would like to leave the guests with as we part?
I think we covered most of it, Todd. I will say going back 5 years, I mentioned we were one of the lower performers, and we've grown almost double in size in the last 5 years, and we've grown successfully and profitably. And I really do attribute a good portion of that to what we've learned and the relationships we've gained through the best practice group program. It's truly been invaluable for our business.
That is fantastic to hear. I've heard that refrain from others as well, where they're at a certain point in their growth and in their size, and they're wanting to get to that next level, and they look at benchmarking as a way to be able to do that. So it's interesting that you said that. I actually have heard that from a number of other people involved in the program as well. So it seems to be a common theme. So
Yep,
good to hear. All right. Well, Jonathan, thank you so much for your time today. Thanks for taking time to speak with us, and be well, and we'll talk soon.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot, Todd.